Hi team, I'm quite happy to share this project with you. This has been a bit of a love of mine, this aircraft, and a project I've wanted to do for around about a decade. Since I built my 6-scale Hawker Typhoon when I was about 18, I finished that when I was 20, and really wanted to build this aircraft. Unfortunately, it's taken me a while to sort of get to a stage in life where I had a bit of time to work on it, and life's caught back up with me again, and it's been about a year and a half to get to the stage where we are now. The idea is that this is going to be a 3 metre by 3 metre airframe. It will have two EME 70 engines with self-start on both sides. It'll be full composite, so it'll have plugs made. It will then be turned into moulds, and I'll have a full composite airframe. Hopefully sooner than later, but you never know. So if you want to follow along with this project, beware, you may be in it for the long haul. It might be a couple of years before we have a flying model, but if you can wait that long, it'll be worth it, I think. So I'll give you guys a run through where we're at currently. We have a lot of parts to this puzzle. We have currently the main fuselage plug, which has been shaped up. It was shaped up from polystyrene sections glued together. That was hot wire foam cut, and then sandwiched together over this an aluminium square section. It was then preliminarily sanded, and then fiberglassed, and then it's now a long process of filling, sanding. You can see the glass through here, so it's just making plugs takes a lot of effort. It's a lot of filling and sanding to get the shape right, because as you can see currently we've got some slight hollows in here I want to get out. Get this curvature nice, get the surface finish in the fin. So that one's got a bit of work to go in it yet. Obviously this is where the main wing goes, through here, so I've got to make a nice cut out for this. Got to get that finished so that I can make that part of the plug, so I have a nice wing locating seat as part of the plug. Moving over to the outer booms. So this is one plug which I'm going to use for both halves. So this was done the same method. It was done with foam slices put together over a mandrel, front former plate to keep the shape right without losing that cylindrical front former. Again, that's just needs to sand at this point, and it needs a bit more added to this side. You can see how many layers of filling and sanding we've done so far. I think it's probably going to end up being around about 8 to a dozen coats and sanding steps through this plug, through each of these plugs. Yeah, and because I'm only doing one half, because I'm only doing one plug for both sides, it meant I then had to make a plug for the rear fins, one for each side. So this is what I'm working on here currently, is they've just had a final Duratex they need to sand and polish to get those to a nice sheen, ready for pulling plugs off. So these plugs here were 3D printed, and then filled, sanded to get to a point where I'm happy to paint them up and make a plug out of them. Unfortunately, 3D printing doesn't make things a bit brittle, as you can see I've lost a corner here, but they will turn out quite nice, and then I'll have matching opposite plugs. So that's going to be a fun process to pull molds off, because that's going to be a 3-piece mold. There'll be a piece here, and there'll probably be a piece this way and a piece that way. So that's going to be a fun little project. The only plug I've kind of really got to completion is the spinner plug. The only thing I've got to do is I've got a slight depression here where I've got to fill that up, and then that's almost ready to pull a mold off. I was thinking about doing a 2-piece mold, but I think I can lay that in a one piece and get that plug out quite happily with a little punch out through the center. It's all negative released angles. I can yank the plug out pretty happily and flex the mold to get that out. That'll make it easy, no parting lines. So that'll be the first pretty mold I make, just to try my materials that I plan to use. Fillers that I've been using on this project. This has been my main high build filler. This sands really nicely. It's called Featherfill G2. This is what the light grey, which is on most of these plugs to start with. It goes on quite thick. I started painting it on this one here, but subsequently I have then sprayed it with a 2mm gun, 2mm nozzle gun. 50-50 which one's actually better. This here is Duratec. It is a industry standard for finishing plugs. This is this dark colour you can see on here. You can see there's been a few layers of that as well going on to get us to this point. You can see the plug wasn't perfectly round, which is why we've got these breakthroughs here. This polishes up, as you can see here, quite really nicely to a good shine. This needs another polish yet. This has been fingered by many people as I've shown it off. I've been quite proud to get at least one plug done after almost a couple of years. Both these two products here are a polyester base, so they have an MEKP catalyst added to them at like 1 or 2%. The amount of this MEKP catalyst you add determines the cure rate of the primer and the filler. So you want to give yourself enough time to apply your product, but then at the same time you want it going off so that you don't have to spend a day waiting for things to cure before you can sand it. As it is, I'm only getting about once a month an opportunity to put a coat on and do a sand, which is why this is taking so long at the moment. The guns that I've been using at this stage are just some El Cheapo ones from online stores. They're basically unbranded. They're not a good quality, but because I'm running such crap through them and high compounds, they do the job. They've both got a 2mm nozzle on them, which means I can spray things reasonably thick. Yeah, spraying those at around about 33 psi, and that seems to be applying the product quite well. So running you through now some of the gear we're going to put in it. We're going to run these two of these EME 70s with self-start, as mentioned before. I bought those, and I bought actually all this gear before I knew I was going to get married and buy a house, or build a house. So I knew I wasn't going to have any money afterwards, so I made sure I got all the main components beforehand, while I had some pocket money. So these have got onboard self-start. They will be activated by this E-switch, which plugs into the receiver. So two of them. Moving on, two fuel tanks. They are both 700ml. Two of those, one for each side, just gives plenty of flight time. Electron retracts. We are using Robot struts. These retracts are awesome. They are 100-degree rotation. So that'll give me just a little bit of forward rake on the undercarriage extended and allow for full retraction and clear that wheel inside the fuselage or the outer boom. I'm really impressed with the quality of these Electron retracts. I thoroughly recommend them. These are the ER50s, one of their largest units, and they do a beefier version of the 50 now as well for even larger applications. We'll be running a JR 131 BPU receiver with 3 satellites. Maybe not. I might change this setup yet. I might be getting an 11 BPX from JR to replace that, and then also the AR Smart Bus. Yes, this is a power distribution unit, so that will give me power to all my servos, especially if I'm running power and things through a lot of components, a lot of servos. And of course we're going to use some really quality Chinese servos. These are like 40 kilo. Nah, we're not going to use these servos. I'm kidding. That's it. I'll be getting some good JR servos to go throughout this, JR and MKS probably. So at this stage we're back to sanding, filling, sanding. I won't bore you too much with that stuff. I'll put updates out as I can. I'll try and wait until we get to a decent progression stage before I do an update. This is part 1. I'm guessing there's going to be about 6 or 7 parts to the series before we have a flying model, hopefully. There might be more, we'll see. Yeah. back to sanding.